He doesn't understand pricing of goods and services that cross international borders. And so tariffs to him are just sort of like poker chips and sort of play money.
What has been slightly missed, as people understandably focus on the president's criticism of our own prime minister, is that after his critique of Sir Keir Starmer, the president went further on Spain.
And now Spain actually said that we can't use their bases, and that's all right. We could use their base if we want. We could just fly in and use it. Nobody's going to tell us not to use it, but we don't have to. But they were unfriendly, and so I told him we don't want to. Spain has absolutely nothing that we need other than great people. They have great people, but they don't have great leadership. And as you know, they were the only country that in NATO would not agree to go up to 5%. I don't think they agreed to go up to anything. They wanted to keep it at 2%, and they don't pay the 2%. So we're going to cut off all trade with Spain. We don't want anything to do with Spain.
Where did that come from? We've had this beef, so we're going to cut off all trade with Spain. Let's talk now to Harry Broadman, former US Assistant Trade Representative and Chief of Staff of the President's Council of Economic Advisers under George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton. Hi there, Harry.
Hi, Olly. How are you?
Yeah, good, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us again. How did you react to that press conference today and that seeming announcement that Spain is being cut off from trade with the United States?
Well, welcome to our world. By our, I mean the entire world's world. I mean, this is par for the course with Mr. Trump. He's obviously obsessed with trade as the weapon of choice, which I'm not sure why. I don't know the issues behind Spain not willing to cough up more money. I can imagine why, frankly, but it's unfortunately it's a very typical performance by Trump.
But unprecedented, right, for any previous president
Absolutely.
To be using trade as a weapon when a country won't back your diplomatic or your aggressive military aims.
Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying that Trump is obsessed with trade. He doesn't understand it, but he's still obsessed with it. He doesn't understand, how trade works. He doesn't understand pricing of goods and services that cross international borders. And so tariffs to him are just sort of like poker chips and sort of play money. But of course, they have real impacts, not least of which on the U.S. economic fortunes.
And that's the strange thing, viewing it from this side of the pond, is when he talks about trade as a punitive measure, he fails to mention that the people who would be paying for it is the businesses in the United States that are importing from Spain and the customers who want to buy Spanish goods.
Yeah, no, he believes that it's the exporters who are paying. And, we can look at recent data about who is paying what when it comes to tariffs. And, the Supreme Court that ruled against his choice of law to put these tariffs on, I think, frankly, reading between the lines, made a mockery of his judgment, not only how trade works, but obviously getting very poor advice by his Treasury Secretary and his U.S. Trade Representative, which is, really quite alarming.
And so we have to use some judgment, don't we, as to whether he means it. And in a sense, part of his skill as an operator is you're never sure whether he means it, and he might mean it, so that could be a problem. Do you think he does mean it in this case?
Listen, if I knew the answer to that question, I wouldn't be spending my time talking to you. I mean, he may mean it at one level, but then all of a sudden he'll confront reality and he'll realize that he's just cutting off his nose to spite his face. And I think he was really pissed off about the Supreme Court. And he did not use nice words to refer to the justices, which is really untenable. But he doesn't really understand the impact. And whether he understands it or not, frankly, is also beside the point. He may not care about the impacts.
I mean, it's quite interesting because it's from the same playbook, isn't it, as the rhetoric he was using over Greenland. And, he said, if you don't back me in my goals to take over Greenland, to own Greenland, then there will be a trade war with you, the rest of the world. And then it seemed a bit like he'd sort of slightly embarrassingly backed down from that position because of the massive backlash that there was everywhere. But I guess from his perspective, he thought, no, I got a good deal there. They took me seriously. And so it's all bargaining.
Yeah, but it's like the Aesop's fable about the boy who cried wolf. When Mr. Trump keeps crying wolf, and then when it's time to have him in the wolf's clothes come out and attack, he says, forget it, I didn't mean it that way. And so now I think most rational people around the world really should not take him at his word. And I'm surprised that other leaders, I mean, they're obviously very mature adults, almost to a T around the world, but they really should not be taking him seriously. And I suspect behind closed doors, the kinds of conversation that you and I are having are happening, and frankly, in capitals around the world about what to do with this man who doesn't seem to be rational or logical, and frankly is doing himself and the U.S. economy a real disservice. Not that he cares, but that's the end result.
Okay, actually, just on that then, Harry, because of all your expertise in this area, I have you for one more minute. I'd like to ask you what you think the real impact of this war in Iran that is actually happening is going to be on the U.S. economy.
Well, it's clearly going to soften the economy, and it's going to, engender inflation because of the price of oil going up. The dollar, on the other hand, will probably strengthen because relative to other countries around the world, investment markets around the world, the U.S. still looks, much more robust and relatively stronger. Take the obverse end. China will be dramatically hurt if oil prices go through the roof, and import prices and export prices that China relies on both for buying and selling, those will also come crashing down. And many countries in the global south, including China, will be harmed far more than the global north, the advanced countries. But the U.S. is going to be pretty well insulated from that. But I think because the stock market will go up, people will look at U.S. as a relatively safe haven. But on the other hand, this is the real issue is that this is eroding confidence in the globe and U.S. economic leadership. And I think people are just counting the hours and the days and the years when he's no longer in the White House, and we can get back to a more sensible issue. But in the meantime, there's going to be inflation. There's going to be a lot of pressures on the U.S. as well as the world economy, and how this man navigates things, I think, is has yet to be seen if it's going to be a serious way of navigating.
Okay. Harry, really appreciate your time. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Harry Broadman there, former U.S. Assistant Trade Representative and Chief of Staff to the President's Council of Economic Advisers under George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton.